So cordial welcome to all of you. I would suggest that we start. And a big welcome to you for joining us on this very interesting and very important question of the algorithmic bias and also AI governance, which we will discuss together with our speakers. And to give you an idea, what are we planning and who is here? Let me start with a short introduction, which does mean that please also give me a short moment to put the presentation here. Don't worry about it. The major part will really be you seeing our speakers and we discussing things. But just to give you an idea, to show them a few more details, show you a few more details about them. What is our plan for today? As you can see, we've got mainly three people. That would be Ruth Cesari Sierra, and Johnny Johannes Gottschalk, who are our speakers. You will see in a moment what exactly they are doing. And me, who is the interviewer, moderator, facilitator, so the sidekick of those two in a way. So this is our setup today. And for those of you who might not know me, this is Nadine, and as you can see here, I had been for quite some time one of the two international co-presidents of EWMD. And if I'm not working for EWMD, I'm a trainer, coach, and facilitator working internationally all around the world and focusing on leadership and customer delight. And my two speakers are, first of all, Ruth, and as you can see, she's the founder of a coaching company. She's got a PhD in engineering, and she's an AI execution architect. Ruth, what else can you tell us about yourself?
I have been in engineering in the manufacturing arena for about 13 years now. I specialize in engineering systems, frameworks, and product life cycles. I also co-founded a company 2 years ago, which is this coaching company, which has evolved into a complete different thing, but I did not change the name. It's as is. I help women entrepreneurs build and scale their businesses through systems and frameworks while integrating AI into their businesses currently. I work with a lot of data-driven components of the businesses, and it is a perfect intersection of my engineering knowledge, transparency of my algorithmic work that is allotted along with the AI side of things. So that's me.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Ruth. And my second speaker is Johnny Johannes Gottschalk, and he is currently a PhD researcher at the Department of Islamic Studies at the Friedrich-Alexander-Universität Erlangen-Nürnberg. So coming from a very different angle, at the same time, I'm really absolutely sure that he has a lot of things to share. And thanks again, Johnny, for stepping in at extremely short notice, because Ariely informed us only yesterday evening her time, so basically this morning our time, that she can't make it. She has a family emergency she needs to take care of and excuses herself. We hope that we can still send some of your questions to her and that she can answer them after the event via LinkedIn, but she cannot be there with us. So welcome, Johnny, and thanks again for really stepping in at the very last minute. What else can you tell us about yourself beside working for the Department of Islamic Studies, which is unusual when we're talking about AI, but maybe not that unusual? Please.
Yeah, it looks a little bit unusual. Actually, I'm a linguist by training, and I have been working in the IT industry for 10 years until I decided to give it up and focus on Islamic studies, or better, Islamic theology. So here is where the interlink is. I spent a lot of time with focusing on linguistic questions and also AI. And then I figured out that it could be very interesting to focus on this from a theological perspective, namely from the perspective of fear, and in how far AI could be used to console us, or as my idea would be, it can't. Yeah, and this is this is what I'm thinking about at the moment.
Perfect.
A lot
Thanks a
of my
lot, Johnny.
time.
Yeah, and we will discuss this last question or this last part later on. How can AI counsel or maybe not? And in how far can it take care of human relationships or maybe not? So that will be one part of our discussion as well. Thanks a lot to you. For those of you who maybe don't know who is EWMD, so the ones who have organized this call, I have just a really short information before we immediately dive into our topic. Who is EWMD? We are called European Women's Management Development. Very much easier to remember. Every woman makes a difference. We are a women's business network. We are working internationally, and you can see these are our vision, these are our values. We want to live in a world where women support each other to shape business, politics, and society. And we believe that it's absolutely necessary. This is inspired by diversity, integrity, and an inclusive leadership. So this is what we believe in. And this already leads me to our topic today, because if we have a look at AI, at the bias, at the governance, at the impact AI might have, what does this mean for diversity, integrity, and inclusive leadership? What does it mean for respect? What can it mean? And maybe what possible negative consequences might we have with the use of AI if we are not careful, if we don't take care of the bias and of the governance? So it does fit very well with what we are standing for. Where are we? Here you can see where we are and what our network consists of. Currently, we have around 780 individual members, 17 corporate members, so companies who decided we want to become a member of this network, of this NGO. We are distributed over 18 local chapters in 11 countries, mainly in Europe, although we also have a chapter in Hong Kong, but mainly in Europe. And we do have some individual members all around the world, which we are very happy to have, as this does give us way more diversity also within our network. Another thing that leads me to our topic, and that also is one of the reasons why we organized this call, is that we are, as EWMD, are very active in Brussels. We believe it's necessary to sometimes remind the political leaders and especially the policymakers that there's women out there they are doing their job for, and that we are the women who are affected. And this is why we started with the Brussels Declaration, where we managed to unite 8 organizations, and these 8 organizations represent more than 40,000 women all over Europe. What we share is one vision and one goal. We want to increase gender equality throughout Europe. And we want to work with the policymakers to achieve that. And as one part of today's topic is the governance part, that definitely fits here. And that definitely is something that's very important to focus on and to talk about and to do. Objectives for today. Those have slightly changed as we had the very short notice change of speakers. So please allow a bit of slack here. I know, Ruth, that you prepared for all of those, and Ruth will do her best to really cover all of those. At the same time, we will have some new, very interesting content from Johnny as well that will partly cover some of that stuff. At the same time, also go in maybe unexpected and very interesting other directions. So what were the original objectives for today? The idea was that you know your rights under the EU AI Act and the emerging US regulations. For once, Europe was faster here, way faster than anywhere else in the world. We also wanted to achieve that we can have a strategic documentation, what matters when we're talking about accountability and the potential legal action, potential necessary legal actions. That we are also talking about the necessary tactical defenses we need to deploy while we push for a systemic change. And especially currently at the moment, I believe there's quite a lot that's necessary to do here. I don't know who of you saw the latest news on several platforms on the latest brainchild of Elon Musk when we talk about AI and large language models, which is called Grok, Grok. In case you haven't seen it yet, check for it. It sent quite a cold shiver down my spine, I have to admit. What else? Understanding some technical biases, mechanisms that we find in the algorithms that lead to the algorithmic bias across the platforms. And also very important, as we are a business network, quantifying the business impact beyond engagement and calculating the actual revenue. So that's the objectives, and this is the plan, and also my last slide for now, because now I really want to concentrate and focus on our speakers and what they have to say. We will start with a bit of context on both the AI bias as well as AI governance. And then we will have the panel discussion. So I have prepared some very interesting questions for both of our speakers, and really looking forward to what you will be able to contribute here. Really curious here. As I already said, we planned for a Q&A session for you as the audience, so feel free to use the chat, put in any question you want to ask one of our speakers, or also Arely. We will try to get some answers after the event from her. So please provide us with your question, anything you would like to ask in the chat, and we will discuss this after the panel. And there's a bit of a call for action as well that we want to leave you with, because one thing is the information and knowing what's happening. The other thing is also what exactly do we do about it? And as said, going away from the presentation, returning to my speakers and inviting Ruth, because Ruth, you promised to give us a bit of context on our hot topics. Please, stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Nadine. That was wonderful. Thank you very much for the introduction, and people all dialing in. Thanks, guys. Thank you for your understanding of early not joining us today. But here we are, and life goes on. So let's move on with what we have for team today. So coming up directly with some of the basic questions as to what is AI governance. So AI governance is nothing but the legal definition of it is the policies and the rules and the processes that make the entirety of the AI systems, and they are meant to be safe, they're meant to be fair, and where it will not harm people in a manner where it's going to hurt them personally, professionally, or in any way, shape, or form. So why this matters, right? So the important question is, without any guardrails or without any governance on these algorithms, we'll end up having biases in these systems. Not only we're going to have biases which will lead to discrimination and privacy violations, the bigger part of this story is that no one is being held accountable. So because there is no one being held accountable, there is a big havoc of on multiple platforms where there is no reach for people's content, and there is no information as to how people can rectify their reach to the public. And this leads us into some of the core elements what the AI governance should be accommodating, right? Like, so first is transparency. Like, when we talk about transparency, can someone explain how these AI decisions are made that are being incorporated into the algorithm itself? Number two is accountability. Who is responsible to feeding data into these algorithms, and how are those data that is being fed into these algorithms and its effects, whether they are good or bad, negative or positive effects, that are being reciprocated through the algorithm. So that is the accountability piece of it. And then the fairness. Obviously, there is no fairness, meaning that somewhere along the line, somehow, there is no transparency and there is no accountability. And that is why there is the system is discriminating against certain groups, marginalized communities, and then there is a lot of confusion around that topic. And lastly, lastly, an important factor is that as of now, most algorithms do not have a human oversight, meaning when an algorithm is fed, who is checking the data? What are the consequences of that data coming out of the algorithm? And what is the rectification on the back end of the systems? No one is checking this. So that is where it will leave us into so many complications, meaning what LinkedIn is going through is currently the perfect example. Like, I don't think there is any transparency that LinkedIn provides, and Cindy is on the call. She can talk more about that if needed. And then there is no accountability. LinkedIn is just putting their hands in the air and saying, there is no discrimination. Our algorithm does not run that way. That's their answer. That's a public statement. And I don't think that is going to help anyone, to be very honest. And then obviously there is no fairness in the LinkedIn algorithm. And so on Instagram, and what I'm seeing on TikTok also is that the fairness is not being given to the general audience, the public that are using it. These platforms make huge amounts of money from the subscribers, which is us. But then when you talk about the transparency, accountability, fairness, and human oversight, this is the basic core elements of any algorithm that should be built around. There is none. So this is going to be a lot of talking from me, so please bear with me. So now this brings us to the next segment of the question where I want to touch base on the risk levels and give like a couple examples on that. So each algorithm is rated on 4 levels of risk factors. One is prohibited. So these algorithms are prohibited to general public visibility. So which are the social credit systems and mass surveillance systems, like the one in China where they're constantly recording the activity of people on roads and cafes and all that. So that's prohibited. The high risk is hiring, healthcare, credit decisions, and law enforcement. One of the examples again here is a big social media where the fairness thing comes in, and we do not have any visibility to that. The limited risks are chatbots, and we don't have to talk much about it. And the minimal risk is spam filters and video games. I'm a little surprised by this because the big havoc that is going on Roblox, the gaming thing, I don't know anything about games, but the safety and security around that game has been so disastrous these days that it falls under the minimum risk, and I don't think it should be. It should be a high level risk for the safety of the children itself. So moving on to the next one. Johnny, feel free to jump in anytime you want to share anything. So moving on to the case studies, I have 3 case studies for you all to present some of the details of what is currently going on. So this is a story from 2020 Italy. There has been a app called Frank. This is from a company called Deliveroo. This is in France, obviously. So there has been a bias in the worker algorithm discrimination. So the people that were working, the workers, have filed a case against the company saying that Frank, the app, could not identify a difference between why the rider couldn't show up. Was it any health reason? What is any family emergency? And so if the worker did not show up, it would flag them as low responders to the app itself. So meaning low responders, meaning they didn't get further business, and then they did not get further, it was going to hurt their pocket. So low ranking, meaning less work, meaning low money. So the people filed the case, and the court said that this was very discriminatory, and you just can't punish the workers for legitimate absence. And so the algorithm was deemed as blind to the content and the context of the worker. And what we can learn from this is that algorithms are managing workers and their information, but they're somehow blind to the reasoning and the context of the worker itself.
But
So this is why
a question I would like to add here is when we are thinking about working law, like in Germany, it's extremely complicated and quite often discriminations, though they are discriminations, obviously, are not detected by humans as such, meaning that workers accept things which they don't have to accept. And people like bosses say things which perhaps were not intended to be a discrimination, but happen to be a discrimination. So I would be very interested in how this could be resolved by AI, because in the end, it's trained by corpora. And can we expect from an AI the same what we don't necessarily accept from humans? That's yeah.
So to that particular case, the government ruled the case in favor of the employee, so that the algorithm has been fixed. So the thing is, like, one, documentation is very important. Two, bringing up to the team, whoever governs the algorithms, that's important. And the third piece to it is to have your voice strongly heard by people and to put in corrective actions. And the first iteration of anything is not going to be perfect, right? So the willingness to iterate and continuous improvement on the algorithm itself is very, very important. Another case that I have researched here is from 2020, and this is with the UK Home Office visa algorithm that has been like supremely biased. And this is just very aggravating to me personally. And I'm like, you cannot do this. So the UK secretly used an algorithm to sort like the visa applications by nationality. And so like they speedboarded white people's visa applications and pushed the people of color's visa applications to the back of the queue. And that was very, very discriminatory. Like that is like a very biased system, like very unfair. There is no, to me, like somehow I want to believe that this was very intentionally done, although it sounds and means very wrong. But then the outcome of this from the civil rights group, it was sued. And before the case was heard in the Home Office, they just completely scrapped the algorithm and built a new one successfully. And they are still working on it. From 2025 update was that scrapping the tool along with new investigation and reiteration of the algorithm now is an opaque system for the immigration enforcement. So people can actually go in and, kind of look at where are they in the queue, and the queue is fair in the order received. So that was very interesting to me. One other quick example that I want to throw out was the money laundering scenario that happened in Scandinavia. I think everyone should read about that. That is a very, very interesting concept that happened. So banks were loaning billions of dollars to people, and they were using it to launder money. And AI was missing these patterns, like why there was like big amounts of transactions to kind of wash money. I mean, I'm not an expert in that, but these patterns were very odd. but still they did not kind of identify, and the bank was using a governance system that was very red flagged. It was also called a black box problem by the bank entity, and they scrapped the algorithm. But however, there was no action taken, regardless of how much money was involved in the whole scenario, and it was just ugly. But like nothing was taken care of in that
These
scenario.
are, for example, also things I experienced in my test engineer career. Because when everything depends on automation and automated tests, which can be generated by AI, the problem is that what the real creativity, like when the user was drunk, happened. Then it's really a challenge to detect stuff, because patterns, yes, but patterns when they divert is a challenge.
For sure. Yes. So that brings us to the gaps that are in the system itself, right? Like there is a big push for adoption. Yeah, we want to adopt AI. We want to build these algorithms. We want to incorporate them in our daily lives. There is a very, very great detail of goodness that comes with these algorithms, for individuals, for enterprises, for entrepreneurs. However, there is only a very small percent of the governance that is being put around these algorithms. For example, the real numbers from McKinsey report Q4 2025 is that adoption is exploding. 88% of the organizations want to and is currently using AI somehow and somewhere in their workflow and in their systems. And 65% of that is generative, meaning everything is automated regularly. But however, the governance around these systems is going at a speed of snail. To only 25% of actual AI governance frameworks are incorporated to detect the safety and security and the visibility of all this, and only 2% of gold standard governance is continuously monitored, meaning of all the algorithms that we currently see on a world platform, only 2% has safety around it, meaning it is continuously monitored and continuously improved. However, nothing else goes around it. The simple translation is everyone wants to use AI, but no one is properly documenting and governing it. Yeah. Anything you want to add to that, Johnny?
I'm considering the problem I see is what standards. So we first have to agree on the standards, and how can we decide on what standards we would like to accept? Because sometimes I have the feeling we demand more from the machine than we would demand from humans, as I said before. Because possibly we don't accept that a machine can have errors, though it notoriously has, but caused by humans again, because who's programming?
Right. So a lot of governance around the system is built by the humans, right? And what are the requirements that go into the algorithm are basically dictated by people, basically reverse engineer from the end of the line. We have to figure out, what does this platform mean? For example, let's give us an example of LinkedIn, right? What is the purpose of LinkedIn? There is one of the post that Cindy has written, I have 120K followers on LinkedIn. The goal of LinkedIn is to put this content in front of those number of people. However, that is not happening. So somewhere along the filtering of the content within the algorithm is missing the mark, right? That is one simple purpose of algorithm of LinkedIn is like, my content is here, put it to my connectors. That is not happening. So that is where I think that is one small example, and there are multiple where algorithms fail. So basically, the question to your answer is take the intention of the platform, reverse engineer it, add fairness, visibility, guardrails, safety, and security to it, and then work the algorithm in a manner that is best for the subscribers, the users.
That
Yeah.
would be utopia when we're talking about AI and systems, but I completely agree with both of you.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge I see in that, nevertheless, is so we had this LinkedIn case. It was related to that male content is predominantly shown while female content is not, as was figured out by testing, right? And now we assume that we have a system and we want the system to give me exactly that back what I put in, like an input-output machine. And of course, from an input-output machine, I can expect that it is fair. Yeah. And with the case of deciding between women and men, I would agree it's easy to decide that for a computer. But the point I'm wondering about is the problem with the definition of fairness. I mean, fair that female content must be as visible as male content is a no-brainer. It's of course a fact, but when it gets to like uh, multiple possibilities to discriminate a person, how would we think that a machine could decide that? Would we give, I mean, if we give points, like the person has a gender and the person has a disability, how do we decide that? And it's a problem to show this in a machine. So again, my question is, how do we put the standards?
So
Yeah.
the standard is where people sit down and vote for it, right? That the problem that we are facing with multiple of these platforms is that the fundamental construction of algorithm is not fair. Like all the points that are need to be there in building of these algorithms are fundamentally not being incorporated at step one. So that is why we see so much of non fairness going along, right? Like, for example, like you said, a man's post should be just as visible as women's. They say that they have no bias with a man's or a female post. I think that when I have written a 4-part series post on LinkedIn, if anyone is interested, you can go read it. But how it is filtering is not per se with the male or female, but the style of writing. So if a woman writes a more collaborative language, which have women basically write, versus a more decisive and authoritative and commanding language like men write, then the algorithm is filtering through those two posts and then deciding what needs to be pushed through. Also, what LinkedIn specifically does is the longer you stay on the platform, the more visibility you get moving forward. So how much you personally, if I spend more time on LinkedIn, that is one of those factors of how it ranks me above versus other people. So yeah. moving
And by the
on.
way, thanks a lot to Cindy, who just put in the work that Martin Redstone did. He was one of the panelists with the last event, because he had a look at exactly what you have been describing, Johnny. So how about the intersectionality? How if I have several possible factors that could go into the game, and how does the algorithm, or how could the algorithm decide about all of those factors, the connection of all of those factors, and what is it doing currently? And combining what both of you said, yes, it would be necessary to sit together and talk about it, and not just like LinkedIn did in the last months, just turn a blind eye and say everything is fine, because it apparently is not. We can see that at every corner. There's a lot of research that basically proves that. And we run quite a big risk if we ignore that. Short question, Ruth. How far are we with the context part? Is there another example that you wanted to tell us about? But that would be very...
No, I think we can move on.
Okay. Because just having a look at the time, as usual, time is our biggest enemy here, because we could spend days. We could spend days discussing those things. And if you both allow me, I would love to jump into, or Ruth, do you want to do the Menti first before we jump into the question?
Go with the, we can do the Menti. So there will be a question that I want to pop up here. The question is, how many of you suspect your content or business has been algorithmically suppressed by LinkedIn, Instagram, Amazon, or other platforms, but have no way to prove it? I'm going to drop the question in the chat. And Nadine will present the Mentimeter.
Yeah, I'm just trying to open it. But Zoom is, here we go. Come on, dear Zoom. Please allow me to open this window, because then you can see the QR code and then can also leave your voting. This looks good. So let's go on with our Menti, and let's go to the next page. And this is the question Ruth just gave to all of you. Here is the QR code. In case this doesn't work, on top of the slide, you can see the code that you can type in when you go on menti.com. So feel free to use either possibility. So how many of you have suspected your content? Have you suspected that? That would be a clear yes. No, so far I haven't suspected that my content is being suppressed. That would be a clear no. So please give us your votings.
I don't see anything yet.
Can't see it. Okay, that was the typical Zoom. I always forget that I have, in addition to choosing, can you see it now?
Yes, now we see it.
Thank you. I always forget, in addition to choosing which window I want to show, I have to tell Zoom, yes, you are allowed to show it. So sorry for that. Here we go. So let's see how this is developing. Currently 12 votes, 13 going upwards. So again, the yes is yes, I have suspected my content has been algorithmically suppressed. No would be no, I don't think so. So let's see.
Can I please encourage everyone to vote on this question, please?
Please. At the moment, we've got 17 votes, and I know there are quite a lot more people in here. So feel free to check out the QR code and give your voting here.
So there are some people that are neutral who do not post. So we get that. Thank you. So there are many people that say that they do not suspect their content has been algorithmically suppressed. Congratulations to you all, but mine has. So that so that I'm taking a personal hit on it.
At the moment, it's still quiet, although only 22 people have voted. So please feel free to join in here.
So we can move on, Nadine. We
Yeah.
can move on to the questions.
Yeah. Let's do that. So you can still vote as long as this presentation is open, but I would move on to the next question from Ruth. And this is, come on, dear system, give me the next slide. And this is about the platform telling you nothing is wrong and at the same time, the metrics the platform is giving you tell a completely different story. How does that make you feel? Please drop 1 word, 2 words is also okay. Describe your emotions. Oh, that's a big distrust. And gaslighted. Oh. And at the same time, as you can see, there's quite a range of emotions, right? Because we're talking about emotions like being anxious, at the same time being furious, powerless, excluded maybe even, cheated, distrust, big thing, the distrust that's happening here, obnoxious, angry, and very, very frustrated. Those of you who know how these word clouds work, the majority of you, or quite a lot of people, were writing frustrated. So it is a very frustrating situation, right?
So I can relate to these feelings, right? Like first when I was posting on LinkedIn and I decided that I will reduce my activity on LinkedIn just because of all these feelings. It basically left me very frustrated and somewhat less powerless. And given the nature of the kind of work I do, I'm a research and in development for entirety of my career, and it just left me, after all the knowledge and work that I have done, I felt powerless, and that is a very horrible place to be in. And I think that's how LinkedIn made a lot of people feel. So I can relate to those feelings. Thanks, guys, for voting. So Nadine, we can move on to the next one.
Let's do that. And by the way, don't worry. As I said, you can still vote as long as we are talking. The voting is open, and we will share the results also when we share where the recording is, when it is on, and any other information that you can get. We will share this to everybody who had registered after the call, after the event. So that does mean I have some questions for you and would love to start with you, Ruth. We are talking about governance and we are talking about frameworks. And in a way, you could say that so far you have both been describing how it should not be. So the interesting question is, how should it be? So can you explain to us, how can I design a governance framework that will promote transparency and accountability in AI systems? What elements would be necessary to be included here?
Right. So an effective governance, in my opinion, it is not about principles, right? It is not the said words. It is more about what is needed and what is incorporated and then enforced into the governance systems itself. So when we say that we want to be committed to all these ethical AI commitments around the algorithms, then we want to put mainly these 3 things, right? The first is transparency that is along coincided with actionable steps. So if there is something that is happening into the algorithm, people who are making decisions behind these algorithms go in there and make those modifications to give the results that it should be. So that is one. And the second one is accountability with some action and some teeth to that. So what I mean by that is, if there is a consequence that is that is being incorporated within this AI and it is generating that consequence, is that consequence one good or is it bad? Is it in favor of the users that are using it? But otherwise, why would you use that platform to begin with? And then, and also aside to what I just said, not just voluntary compliance, like don't put a rule to make people happy and then forget about it. Because when you talk about the EU Act, there are a lot of compliances that go in there, but not all of the 100 compliances that are being put in there are being incorporated into the algorithm. So yes, we can say, oh, we are going to, if I am building an algorithm, I can tell the public, like, these are all the things that we are working on, but the algorithm really doesn't reflect all of those things. So now there is a clear...
I have a question to this. Sorry for interrupting, but my linguistic me wonders what transparency means, because when we say we're transparent, like LinkedIn said, okay, we're discriminating actively those and those people, that no one would say this. That's the first point. And if you had to say this, you wouldn't do it. So that means a consequence of transparency is simply not discriminating people, because otherwise you are lying. But this makes the concept a little bit problematic, because if I use it literally, I would just say, okay, I do this and this and this, and you have to live with it.
Well, that's how it should be, right? That's what transparency means. If you do X, Y, and Z within a platform, you will get results A, B, and C that are in your favor, right? Like as a user, when I am using, let's say, Instagram, I am expecting all my followers to see my content, to respond to my post. Obviously, there is a quality of the post that goes in, but transparency, what I mean is what is happening in the backend, what is happening to my content. When I push the button post, what is happening to my post? A lot of people, including LinkedIn, they made a statement recently that this is proprietary. We will not share it. Sure. Okay. This is proprietary. It is a lot of governance work that is happening. The algorithm itself is proprietary. The governance side of it is not proprietary, because you have to follow certain guidelines that is being mandated all the way from legal side, from the state legislation side, from the country legislation side, and also from the court side. We have to put those safety for the safety and security for the benefit of the nation. So the laws are coming from way up top, right? Not just the person. If I'm building an algorithm, I have to abide by some rules and regulations that are coming from the top, and I have to incorporate as a business owner. And so transparency, meaning I'm not talking just about the algorithm itself, but also its maintenance, its results, its the accountability, the human oversight, all these things. As a user, I would want to know. Sure, don't give me the don't give me the algorithm secrets per se, but give me the logic behind it. And a lot of people, what they're doing now is they are very intentionally going into these algorithms and studying the algorithms. They are tearing it apart and trying to understand what it is. Someone raised their hand, and I don't know who that is. I think it is Cindy. See me on why future of AI relies on women. Oh, she's saying just one more female. Okay, got it, Cindy. Thank you for that.
Thanks a lot for that one. And maybe we can conclude, coming back to your point, Johnny, here, that if the platforms would want to be transparent, we wouldn't have to call for transparency.
Yes.
If the platforms don't want to be transparent, I would say we definitely need AI governance rules, because they will not do it by themselves. I think we know that. It would be so much nicer if they did, but they don't.
But it
I've got another.
means that what is very welcome when we go away from proprietary work is that we go to open source. Yeah, that we say, okay, and this is something which also in software development is very, very important to give the software to those who need it and give them the possibility to change or inspect it. And this is like in the open source community very well done.
Yeah,
So
and that I'm
great
sure
that
that will be necessary to come as well. I
Yeah.
completely agree with you there. Because if there is a possibility for people to inspect, let's say the chances, if somebody wants to be the bad guys, girls, whoever, are way less, because if there are more and more people who know how an algorithm works and who are checking things, the possibilities to do negative things is diminishing. Ruth, I've got another question for you. I'm trying to put my questions in here because we are again,
Right.
time is our
Go
enemy
ahead.
here.
Yeah.
We hear a lot about AI literacy and upskilling. From your experience, Ruth, what does a truly AI-ready workforce look like?
I want to break this down to 3 layers when it comes to the literacy part of it, right? Like one, I strongly believe that everyone should have some level of understanding of what AI literacy means. The first layer is the basic, like what it is good for, what is bad of this whole thing, and how can we understand what the bad is and how can we turn the bad into good for our own sakes, right? Like we are all entrepreneurs and we want to kind of elevate our income on a regular basis and not being shot down by a large language model which is deciding our futures. And I'm like, I will not take that. So the first layer is just basic literacy, understanding what AI is, what algorithms are, what large language models are. You don't have to go technical. You just have to understand what it is and what they're doing. The second is if you are any tech savvy person like me and you are self-motivated, you can learn integration. What integration is basically you're incorporating AI into your daily lives and creating workflows and monitoring those workflows, and you can understand how they work at large, and then now you can understand big corporation models and kind of see, oh, this is where they're going with their plan, and you can be one step ahead of what they're doing, being active in this field. The third layer is strategic thinking, identifying where AI can generate real value both personally and professionally, and what is like basically the hype. When the whole LinkedIn 360 came out, there was a huge hype for it. I don't know what is happening with it. I don't think it is doing anything different than what is currently happening with LinkedIn. So what's the point of 360? Yeah, it's doing something and I don't have full understanding of it, but is it adding value to me as a user? Or is it just creating different products, different models, and having people subscribe for it and making you pay for something that what you fully don't understand? So literacy comes into the point of you being known for what you're doing, but also on the other side, you want to know what they are doing and staying one step ahead. And you want to know that the technology is moving so fast, like it is moving at a speed where no one can catch it, right? So you want to keep the speed. You want to kind of catch up with these things and understand where you can understand these algorithms, you can apply these things into your daily lives and understand them at large, and know that organizations are going to keep pushing these algorithms at you. They're going to push these large language models at you. And if you're not understanding what's going on, then we are at a great disadvantage.
Yeah, absolutely agree here. I've got another question which we already partly have answered, but I still would like to get maybe one or two more thoughts on it from you, Johnny. And this is, what is the consequence of not doing anything? Because theoretically we could say, oh no, I don't really care for all of this stuff. It maybe doesn't hurt me. It doesn't touch me in any way. Wouldn't it be better if I just lean back and don't do anything. What do you think about that, Johnny?
The problem about don't doing anything is that it is still an action. It means you cannot do nothing, not in an activist way, but in a realistic way. So, like when you're not posting on LinkedIn, you're not posting. That means you showed you don't use this platform. In a consequence, you don't support the platform because it is. We are in a binary system here. We can either do something or do nothing. But the funny thing about doing nothing is that still you're doing something. So, yeah, that's my opinion because it means in the end you have to have an opinion on something, and you cannot say, "Oh no," because this again shows either you give away the power or you take your power.
Yeah. And I believe that's a very important thing to do, to be aware of, especially, is that if we are not doing anything, at the same time, we're giving away the power that we have otherwise. And the possible consequences of this could be very severe. So do we want to give the power away or not, please?
And it is like when Ruth talked about that these algorithms decide on what kind of language we are using. It's in fact when we use a dominant language, we are hurt. Yeah, this happens in real life and in computer life. So whenever you make a point, when you are silent, it won't work. And I think in that sense, again, the platform shows the reality, and we have to be aware of that. It shows what happens if someone is much louder than anyone else. The person gets a stage. And if this is right, this is a question which I leave to you.
Exactly. And also what impact it will have on society. And I think history tells us that it's not really a good idea to leave the loudest voices to the ones who like to shout the loudest.
Yeah.
So would be a wise course of action to at least say a few things. Thanks a lot for that one. We have so far focused on governance. Let me quickly switch to the issue of bias a bit more. And Ruth, this one is for you again. If you could give to women entrepreneurs 3 things, only 3, they can start this week to protect themselves from this algorithmic bias, what kind of regulation maybe helps? What can they do right now? What are possible actions, please?
Yeah, so this is one of the important questions, right? We definitely know there is biases in the system. We know that African Americans are not showed for job opportunities. And then with the recent layoff, there is massive impact on women entrepreneur businesses. The VC funding that we are getting that is presented to overall higher ups is that only 2% is being represented for women entrepreneurs. So given all this, we know all these exist. So if as women entrepreneurs, this is for me, and what I have started doing recently is like, one, document everything. Like I have put a sheet together and it's going to come out in 2 weeks from now as part of my newsletter. Please subscribe to that. So I have this sheet coming up. It's a tracking sheet where it is rating your content performance and the date, the platform, the content, the type of language, the topic, and the reach metric is all being tracked on there. So tracking is very important. Most organizations and how people reacted to the bias in the organizations is by tracking. If we are talking about the Deliveroo, that is an important example. This was initiated by just one individual in Italy that said, hey, something is happening. I want to look deeper into this. So he identified the problem, he tracked the problem, and he gave a respective solution to that problem. So yeah. simply start documenting. I would suggest document it at least for 90 days. The second thing is run a control test. When you post the same content in different types, and I'm going to come back to that in a little bit from my notes. So when you write a topic, write it in different language, in the sense that not language as different languages, but in the different tones. I think, hold on one second, if I can pull my sticky note up. Yeah. So one style could be a direct communication. The second one is like in a style of self-promoting. The third is technical expertise. And the fourth is language optimization. So I have taken these 4 styles of writing one post and run an A/B test. Also, try to change your first line if you are focused on LinkedIn, and see if it is giving you different results. And when you track this, you will know what style you do the best. So without waiting for 6 months to kind of someone help tell us what the algorithm is doing, you can start doing this today. And the third one to that would be, please don't switch your gender. I don't think it is helpful, it is meaningful, or in any of that, right? Like I didn't do it. Mine is female. It still sits at female. I did not change the way I write, but I did test 4 different styles of writing, because I mean, it's very intrinsic to me. I mean, I speak 3 different languages. So in my brain, I can't modify it any further. Like, it is what it is. The third thing that I want you to do is, please don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify your platform dependency. Don't give away your power to just one platform. There are so much out there that I'm sure you all are aware of it. There is Substack, there is TikTok if you like making content and don't mind people seeing your face. There is obviously LinkedIn if you navigate it with some caution and some tricky. Hey, people are not fair, like, do what you have to, you have to run your household as well. And also make sure that you have your own website up and running. Like, in the last 4 or 5 years, people have downplayed the importance of website. They say, oh, LinkedIn is my landing page. No. LinkedIn is not your landing page. Your website is your landing page. That's your number one identification. And if you do, and someone has recently told me LinkedIn is the second largest platform where Google pulls its information from. True. That's very true. If you search an article, LinkedIn, Google searches LinkedIn, but you can also write your blogs and use your SEO wording in a way that Google pulls from the blog itself. And that blog is in your control. So the point is, diversify. Do not put all your eggs in one basket. It's very important that you have the control and you have the power over your finances and your journey rather than one single algorithm.
Thanks a lot for that one, Ruth. And I would like to combine this with my next question. So that sounds like a lot of work. At the same time, what is the cost? And now we are talking about dollar cost. Now we're talking about money, dollar, euro, whatever. Please exchange whatever you're working with. What would be the actual cost? Besides all the numbers, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so these are the numbers I have been working for the last, I think, 4 months or 5 months, end of a little more than 4 months. So if you have, these are numbers, so if you want to write it down. I've been looking at my content for the last 90 days, and this is all platforms. LinkedIn before I stopped posting, and Substack, right? So there are 3 things. There's impressions per post, there's engagement rate, and there is click-through rate if you are driving traffic and converting that into sales, especially on LinkedIn. The second step is if your conversion estimate is 20%, that is a conservative estimate. If it is 40% suppression, then, I'm sorry, not conversion rate, suppression. If it is a moderate estimate, then your content is being suppressed by 40%. On LinkedIn, there has been cases showed where the suppression is about 40 to 60% suppression. Okay, so let's say your current impressions are 1,000 impressions per post, and you're estimating a suppression of 40%. So that is 667 lost impressions. So you can minus the 1,000 with the 667 impressions that you have lost, and what is remaining is what you have. So how does it impact the business? So the quick example is if you have 100 impressions from 10 profile visits, and each visit will give you two consultant requests. And of those two consultants requests, you will get one client. And estimating that one client is about $5,000, you have just lost 667 impressions. Okay. So if you put the math together, at $5,000 client value, regardless of your package, however you want to package it, you're losing anywhere from 120,000 US dollars to 180,000 US dollars. So if you were to put that number, that is the number I came up with. If your client value is something lesser, then obviously you're going to lose less. If it is more, then you're going to lose more money. But on an average, your monthly revenue impact is about $10,000 to $15,000. And that is vast. It's vast for me personally. And that is why I had to do all this, because I wanted to see where I can improve. And if anyone is telling you that your content is not good, you're not doing something right, my sincere advice to you is do not fall under that syndrome. It is not you. It is not you. Maybe you can improve in your content, but it is not you. I want you to kind of understand what is your content, how it is working. What are the effects of you posting on one platform versus multiple platforms? And I want you to keep a track of your posts. If you go on LinkedIn every 30 days or 60 days, you can pull the full record. I think I can email you all after the call how to download the entirety of your activity on LinkedIn, and they will send you an email, and you can keep that for your records. And you can also take back onto how those posts performed. If I'm not mistaken, they also give you the impressions, the activity of that post itself. So no, it is not you. Don't let that get into your head, but there's science behind it. And I want you to understand that. So I think that concludes my answer.
Thanks a lot for that. And by the way, you already have been asked, and I think maybe you haven't seen it. Somebody asked if you can put your calculation here. I think it's easier to distribute it when we distribute the content afterwards.
One of my newsletter in the next, my newsletter is out every Friday. I think 3 Fridays from now. How you calculate that is going to come up, and you can sign up for the newsletter, and I will send it to the people that have attended here too.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for this one, Ruth. So my very last question before we start with the Q&A, and that goes to you, Johnny, and it's about the consequences of using AI in a way, you could say, or using large language models, because we have been talking about that already, that the numbers are rising, so more and more people, more and more companies are using those systems. At the same time, they are not being governed. What would you say? What is the consequence if I just take what the AI, what the large language model gives me at face value and don't question it? What is the consequence?
The consequences can be huge, really large. I mean, because when you take for granted, for example, while doing your research, I mean, ChatGPT could write your whole dissertation if you would even let it. But the problem is the value. The first thing is your own original thoughts get lost. If you just say, I have this topic, please write about, it would do so. But then when you go into like have a look at the references, this is a very good key. When you, for example, compare the references with which ChatGPT gives you compared to DeepSeek, it's quite interesting that some are just hallucinated, meaning I wasn't able to find them in the university catalog because they simply don't exist. Especially if you like go for a give me the exact page number. Um, a useful what you can use the AI for is not doing your the thing is you can use it either for doing very simple tasks or for doing very complicated tasks, but nothing in between is what I figured out. It means like when you have to make it do a translation or writing programming code, it's good on that. It depends on the language. So the experience I made with Arabic is like it's not very good in Arabic. It's better in English and in German. Or you can discuss topics with the AI. And here my recommendation is that you use more than one AI for doing it. But making it write something that's the intermediate task, and that doesn't work. You can get into discussion with AI, like having your rubber duck, which you use in programming to understand your problems. That's what AI can be good at, but please compare. But the normal daily tasks, it's not very helpful. So this is the consequence of the large language models from my perspective.
Right. Thanks a lot for sharing that. And by the way, I also experimented on that with ChatGPT a bit and can only agree with what you said, because in the end, as soon as you go to the background and search for hallucinations, or also have a look how old is that data, or there's quite a lot of ors here. Yeah, you cannot really just take it as it is and use it unless you want to make a mockery of yourself or even worse, professionally, because it's still quite faulty. It can be helpful to trigger thoughts, maybe, as you said, to have some discussions, but please use at least 2 different ones and don't take one at face value. So thanks a lot to both of you, and let's go to the Q&A from the audience. We don't have too much time for that, as usual, but I'll try to at least take a few of the questions that all of you had put in the chat. Thanks a lot for that. My question number 1 that I received from you was about the lack of governance around AI. Is it an oversight, or was it intentionally designed that way? What do you think, my dear panelists?
I'm not on mute. I think it was definitely an oversight initially, but then as people started playing with it and the governance that came with it, someone just dropped the EU AI Act, and I think people should read that document. It's a very important one. It started off as okay, we are just building this, because if you see people who built it are very fresh into the concept itself, and so are we, right? So it's a very new emerging concept, and that is why it's rolling down the hill so fast, like no one can catch it. It has been started as an oversight, but then as people learned and the governance concept came in, now it is too difficult and too expensive to go in and change everything. This is what Microsoft has been recently not doing or saying, is that the cost that it comes with in modification of these algorithms is not small. So they started off with not knowing, but now that they know it, they are pushing it back because there's so much cost attached to that. And also know that this is a new arena for everyone, whether for the builders, whether for the users. It is a new arena. So as we evolve this, I think people who are building this should consider, like I started with the call, to communicate with the users. Take the user case requirements and put it back into the algorithm. That's the way it should work. Apparently
But
not.
because that's our chance to don't repeat the errors we did or the mistakes we did with Web 2.0. So when we figured out, oh, social media is nice and I get some dopamine if I click on like and yeah, fantastic. And it was underestimated in the beginning, but then with some specific platforms, like what I see with TikTok and Islamic content, it's obvious that it is misused. And so I totally agree with you, Ruth. And this would now be our chance to be aware of that before it gets worse.
Yeah. And involve people, as Ruth, as you just said, and John, you said earlier, open source is a wonderful thing. So let's involve the majority of people. Let's use the swarm intelligence and not just say, sorry, we don't have the money to do anything about it.
So Microsoft does have money. I feel like they said they didn't, right?
It does. Question is whether they want to use it on that or whether they want to use it for whatever. Let's maybe not just
right. Someone just mentioned that common ones: Claude, ChatGPT, Copilot, and Gemini. Gemini is very good, and so is Claude. Claude Code is fantastic, better than ChatGPT. So if you all are trying to figure out a platform, which is my recommendation would be start with Claude, Claude Pro, Claude whatever, that is great. And the second one is Gemini. Gemini does a lot more, like image generation and all that, but I don't use it for that. I use it strictly for content creation.
Yeah. And by the way, another one that I just put in the chat is quite a new one that is live since October. That was done by the Technical University of Zurich, and it's called either the Swiss AI or Apertus. You will find it. And by the way, that's an open source system. So you can just use it if you say, I don't want to be involved in the details. I'm just using it. But you can also go into the code and you can change things if you install it on your computer. So quite interesting to another one, things a lot, quite interesting to search out. And we got another one from Silky, which is Le Chat Mistral. I guess that's a French one. Thanks a lot for that one. So there is other possibilities. Let's use and explore them. The second question I received from the audience is talking about the fact that in the end, the creators of AI still do not know how AI does what it does. So when we try to fix the algorithm, how exactly would we do that?
I don't think that we don't know how it works, because in the end, it's a mathematical model. So if we wanted to understand this mathematical statistical model, we could, of course, do. It's more like, okay, it got out of control. Yeah, perhaps it got out of control. It obviously got out of control, like Musk's Gorg. But it's not because we don't know, and it's not because we cannot reverse engineer what happens.
So the reverse engineering, Ruth, that you mentioned earlier as well, you both agree on that, obviously, would be a possibility if it would be used.
Yeah. So I think before how it started was like just the company started working on them and they started building it. So they had a more kickstart on it and they built it to the point. But now when we sit down with these algorithms, clearly they are not meant to do what they are doing. Also, there is a large discrepancy of what it should be doing and what it is not doing. So a clear understanding of those two things becomes very important, very primal at this point. And now we need to sit with the user. So if I'm building something, I need to sit with the users and say, hey, give me some data. And that data that we are putting into the algorithm needs to be clean, understandable data, not just shove Excel sheets in there that gives nonsensical stuff out. So this is what I say is like, if you put garbage in, you get garbage out, right? So when you're putting data, put good data, put useful informational data, because at the end, what you put is very dependent on what you get out of it. So there is books out there, there is articles out there, there's white papers out there, there is a lot of other work that people are doing independently. People are writing about algorithms and large language models. Just get a fundamental class from LinkedIn Learning, and there is that. So you can get your hands on to understand what's going on.
Thanks a lot. So last one, absolutely last one, and then I'm afraid we have to close. But I'm sure the conversation will continue, so no worries about that. Somebody wrote, I'm new to this topic. What actions can users take to make it unprofitable for companies to reduce the visibility of women and people of color?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
So what actions can users take to make it unprofitable for companies to reduce the visibility of women and people of color? So basically, what can we do as the users, right, to simply make it unprofitable to reduce visibility of any marginalized group?
I'll let Johnny go first.
I would say move to open source platforms, basically, because when you say, okay, we go with everyone and stay with LinkedIn, with all these platforms, the result would be they don't overthink that they did something which is unjust in the worst situation. So it's the same thing like with operating systems. If we all went for Debian or Ubuntu or something else, we wouldn't have these challenges, and we would even have, from my perspective, more computer literacy if we spent time on Linux man pages to understand what's going wrong when my system doesn't work. So in that situation, it's a decision with your feet and not staying there and protesting.
Yeah.
That's my perspective.
I think that's a very important point, because at the moment we are talking about a quite monopolistic landscape. So there's only very, very few players in this landscape. And as long as we keep it that way, because it's so useful and so easy and so practical and all the very good reasons, we all do it, me included, the probability that this will change is extremely small or even non-existent. Because why on earth should a platform change anything as long as they have the feeling we can do whatever we want and people will still use us? So with that, I would like to give a big thank you and a big hand to both of you for enlightening us before we go to my very last point, which I already have up here, which is the call for action. So thanks a lot to both of you. It was a very interesting discussion and very interesting what you both told us. And before I let all of you go, I want to call you to action, or rather, I want to give the word again to you, Ruth, to call everybody to action. Please, stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Nadine. I appreciate everyone joining this call. So there are a few very important things that we want you to do as our audience and fellow partners in this journey along with us. There is a petition that is being initiated by Jane Evans and Cindy Gallup. There is the Fairness in the Feed. Please, please, please sign the petition. The second one is join the LinkedIn group, The Invisible Code. This is the group that I have started. Robert is my co-group host. Please join the group. This is where if you're a recruiter, it will help you in finding jobs, and I constantly post jobs on there. Also, if anyone is looking for VC funding, I have some VC founders in there that are looking for women founders. So please join the group. That's very important. Share the message. Share the discrepancies that algorithms, the large language models brings to us, and use your voice to put that out in the world. I'm on LinkedIn and on Substack, my own newsletter that comes out every Friday. That is my most dependable one. These are all my links. My email is not on here, but if you go to my LinkedIn, you should be able to get my email as well. I am hosting a LinkedIn algorithm, its repercussions and the antidote. There is the registration link right there. If you all want to learn more about the algorithm and what it is doing and what your response should be to the algorithm, there is that. Please sign up for it. It's on January 30th. And I look forward. I'm very excited about it as well. And my link tree is there. It will have all the links for the newsletter, the LinkedIn, the Substack. And if anyone wants to talk further, I'm giving away a 30-minute conversation on my calendar, and you can book me on there as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot to you, Ruth. And as with all the other stuff, don't worry, we will share this with everybody who had registered, so also those who could not come. So even if you didn't catch it right now, it will be in the material that we will distribute afterwards. And
It will be.
Yes, please.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was about to close, so if there's something you want to say, you go ahead, please.
Yeah, the YouTube video that will be posted shortly, that will have all the links in the description box, along with any notes that Johnny and I have to put forward. The description box will have the links, the resources, any case study documents, any white papers. I'm more than happy to share that all with you all, people.
Perfect. And thanks a lot for the reminder. Thanks a lot to both of you, and also to Bea, who will prepare it so that you can all have access to it and can use it. And that leaves me to basically close and say goodbye for today. If you want to join our movement, if you want to follow what we are doing, there's a QR code from EWMD here. And just in case you want to put it in your calendars already and didn't do that so far, we've got the next event in the series already on the 27th of January, same time at 4 o'clock. And this time we will be talking about male allies and how women are using the topic of male allyship to change the world. See you there. Hope you have a wonderful rest of the week, and see you soon. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.